Hey guys, and as we're approaching the Switch 2 Direct in a couple weeks, I've been thinking about how the Switch 2's menu will look, and I think we've already kind of gotten a glimpse of how it might look, and I have a feeling that it's going to be a lot better than the Switch 1's menu. Like, just in general, a lot of what Nintendo has been doing lately has been a lot better than the Switch 1 menu. But before we get started, I wanted to mention that I have a goal to hit 30,000 subscribers before the Switch 2 launches, so if you enjoy my content, consider subscribing, and if I hit that goal, I will give away a copy of the new Mario Kart game. There's no doubt that the Nintendo Switch's menu design is functional and useful and works really well, outside of the eShop and the NSO apps of course, but visually it looks really bland, and not very interesting compared to Nintendo's previous consoles. I know that's like not super necessary, but I just feel like the Switch's menu feels a bit too corporate for Nintendo standards, and I do think it could be a lot better. Because there could be a way of making the menu more, well, just as functional as the Switch's menu, while also looking more visually appealing and allowing things such as themes. But over the past couple years, some other menus that either Nintendo or some affiliated companies have created are looking significantly better and are a good sign that the Nintendo Switch 2's menus will look more interesting. And you may know what I'm talking about when I'm mentioning affiliated companies. But there is a new design aesthetic that has been emerging over the past half of a decade called Cybermorphism, or also known as Neumorphism or Glassmorphism, that combines elements of both Frutiger Arrow, which is basically the design aesthetic that was popular in the late 2000s and early 2010s, think of Windows 7 or classic iOS, and then combining that with the flat and minimalistic design, kind of the more functional and useful elements of that design, and making something more interesting out of it. It brings back the skeuomorphism, where UI elements have some depth to them, and shadows, and kind of simulate real-world objects. And this aesthetic has been used in a few different operating systems over the past few years, like Windows 11, the PS5, and a couple of the examples that I'm going to mention later in the video. And this design aesthetic has been becoming more prevalent lately, and it has been replacing that more minimalistic and oversimplified, overly corporate design that was very common in the 2010s. And I think this aesthetic strikes a good balance between being functional and visually appealing as well. But Nintendo has a couple different examples of this, and one of Nintendo's main uses of it lately is actually pretty surprising, because it's in the Nintendo Alarmo. Yes, this alarm clock has an operating system, and it's one of the most interesting looking UIs that Nintendo has designed in a few years. The icons have sort of a pop-up effect to them with a drop shadow. It kind of reminds me of the 3DS's UI. It looks really nice. And a lot of the backgrounds and some of the UI elements and menus have gradients as well. And the notification menu also has a skeuomorphic effect, where it basically looks like the notification is coming out of a letter, almost similar to the Wii message board. Even the sound effects in the menu remind me a lot of the Wii and Wii U era, which is really nice. And I just think like the menu just looks really nice in general, and it is actually pretty surprising just considering how bland the Switch's menu was. This is just a huge improvement. And this was also developed by both EPD and PTD, which are also working on the Switch 2, so we may see a lot of these elements in the Switch 2. I definitely think that's the most likely indication that we'll see like a more interesting menu here. Just with how interesting Alarmo looks, there's definitely a lot of depth and little details that they added here that weren't on the Switch's menu. So I think this is definitely a really good sign. And another thing Another game that has a really good menu. It's not necessarily a cybermorphic menu, but it's more of traditional skeuomorphism and just like a lot of depth in general. And that is the Thousand Year Door Remakes menu. This isn't just an excuse for me to talk about Paper Mario. The Thousand Year Door Remake menu legitimately looks amazing. It just has excellent menu design. The menu basically looks like it's an actual notebook made out of paper, and there's actually like things that are stuck into the menu. It actually looks like there's like little things popped into the like menu there, like it's actually made out of paper, which looks really cool. And even when you flip through the menu, it kind of makes a papery sound effect. Like, it kind of gives it that skeuomorphic element there, and it just looks really nice. I mean, like, it looks like something that someone made, like a scrapbook or something. It just looks really nice, and I really appreciate this menu design. Like, it's honestly one of the best, like, menu designs within a game during the Switch era, in my opinion. That's not just because I'm biased about Paper Mario, it just legitimately looks really good. Origami King also had a really good menu as well, but I feel like the Thousand Year Door remake kind of took it to another level, just with like how detailed and interesting it looks. And even though this isn't Nintendo directly, it's Intelligent Systems, it's still like a game that's published by Nintendo. Nintendo still had to approve of it and everything and supervise it. So they are like aware of this menu design and like probably had some stake in it, but it's like, it's still like just another indication of like a really good menu design in this current era of Nintendo. And the final example I have is actually Pokemon TCG Pocket. I wanted to bring this up since I've been playing this game a lot lately, and I'll even put my friend code in the description if you want to add me. This is another good example of cybermorphism similar to the Alarmo, and even though this isn't directly Nintendo, or wasn't published by Nintendo like Thousand Year Door's case, Pokemon is still partially owned by Nintendo, and this game in particular is co-developed by DNA, which is partially owned by Nintendo, and also co-developed some Nintendo games like Super Mario Run, Mario Kart Tour, and Fire Emblem Heroes. And DNA has definitely been somewhat of an influence on modern Nintendo as well, especially in like Mario Kart Tours and Fire Emblem Heroes case. But the menu design in TCG Pocket looks really nice. It may look a bit basic at first glance, but if you look a little more into it, it definitely has that depth that the Nintendo Alarmo menu also had, and it has some nice gradients involved as well, which actually it looks kind of like glossy a little bit, and kind of like the colors kind of move around a little bit. It looks really nice, and it makes the menu look alive. Like, even though it is, like, a lot of the menu is very kind of monochrome looking, it still looks very nice, and it still has, like, a lot of depth and personality to it. And definitely feels like another example of, like, better menu design than the basic flat design that we've been seeing over the past decade. But yeah, I think, like, a lot of this could definitely be an indication of what we could see for the Switch 2. Since Nintendo and connected companies have been embracing this new aesthetic, I think it's likely that the Switch 2 will have some skeuomorphic elements. I think things like it will look a little glossier, like the Wii U and 3DS design, but I think it will also still have a modern, kind of rectangular look to it that the Switch's OS had. And I also think the menu elements will have some depth to them, similar to both Alarmo and TCG Pocket, and themes could also be more likely here. So I think the Switch 2 will definitely have a better menu than the Switch 1, at least hopefully. I mean, they might just copy and paste the menu of the Switch and add a couple things, but I really hope that isn't the case. I really hope they actually put more effort into the Switch 2's menu. The Switch 1 was technically kind of rushed because of the Wii U's failure, so they really had to create something quick with the Switch, something very fast but also functional. But with the Switch 2, they can make something functional, but also more visually appealing as well. So I'm definitely hoping it will be reminiscent of some of the examples I brought up in the video. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Blue Sky if you want to. Stay perky!